Big shout out and thank you to everybody, all the subscribers out there, everybody who's helped support this podcast. We have broken 1,000 subscribers, a major landmark, as we continue to chronicle the second generation of digital art, straight from the visual arts underground. Artist Journal, July 17th, 2023, broadcasting from inner space in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and I welcome you back, and we're going to have to go pretty fast through this show. There is a huge amount of work. It felt like a true kind of renaissance of sorts scrolling through my Twitter feed this weekend. It felt like everybody was putting out brilliant work. I'd just scroll and I was just like, this is incredible. Just from a purely cultural, big picture perspective, I thought to myself, this is incredible. Everything is exciting here. Everything. Like, it was an amazing feeling. I felt just so lucky and proud. It's something to not be taken for granted. You know, these things don't happen often, I would argue, but it seems like something is happening. Something is happening. Now, I love this work here. There were so many brilliant works that could have started this show, but I thought I'd go for something maybe a touch more obscure, but which just actually communicated the fastest and simplest and just with the most immediacy. Again, this Glitch-ROM by Mason III. And what I love most of all, I think, of this is the simplicity of the work, the minimalism, just a question mark. And what I love about just the question mark, it's just, you know, it evokes the Mario box, you know, with the question mark, and you don't know what's going to be inside. And it also evokes, you know, big picture questions of the mystery of existence. So it's kind of has it all. And I have to say the colors are beautiful as well. This kind of, you know, blues and kind of beige browns and the dark reds. The colors are gorgeous. This is a one of one. It sold within 2 minutes. And it is, how much was it? Only 20 Tezos. It went to Marezi, I think is how you'd pronounce that. Mason III, and so just a really, I just love the simplicity, the communication. I love what this communicates. It communicates so much. So brilliant work. Mason III, when Mason III hits, it's really an exciting event usually. Let's see if this is loading up now. It is. Wonderful. Let me just increase that. So Unknown Collector. I am thrilled to announce Unknown Collector is officially coming on Wednesday's Twitter Spaces. So that should be really awesome. Always interesting on Twitter there. Lots of commentary, a lot of interesting comments on AI and just art in general. Really a thought leader, one could argue, in the space. So really thrilled that he's coming on. So check that out on Wednesday. And I will pin that to my feed there, or I will tweet it out. I'm not sure if I officially tweeted that out yet. And also big shout out and thank you to Kant here, who we did this interview yesterday, and that can also be found on my feed. It was great to talk about my art. It was really nice that I've had a couple of interviews last week, people asking about the art, and I totally appreciate it. And it's a lot of fun to talk. It was a 90-minute interview. So thanks everybody who showed up, and thank you most of all to Kant for the invite. It was a lot of fun and really great questions. Turning to the comments here on last episode, thank you, not a number. Congrats to the 1,000 subscribers. Truly deserved, Adrian. Thank you for your work in this space. Absolutely my pleasure. And yeah, it's pretty surreal, I have to say. And I'm glad we hit it before a year, too. Martin Quiroga, great episode as always, Adrian, and thanks for featuring my aubergine trader. So I think this is Martin Joe here. I've been resisting the temptation to start inserting my kinky bears into the pixel art world in addition to my venture into 8Bidoo, but you and Ed Marola don't make it easy. I remember I started with 3D rendering, then I saw video glitch art and incorporated some of it to my work. Then I saw AI and also incorporated it, mixing in everything, and now I feel it is inevitable to add pixel art to my work. And this is actually going to bleed into a conversation, comments on Twitter here. It's very interesting how this community grows and how the work gets contaminated and bleeds into each other like ink stains. Beautifully put. And big thank you also to RuneTune. Always love the pursuit of the conversation, absolutely. And Bombattle, Rada, and Primitive Intel. Keep me updated. Keep me updated. So just great to hear from everybody. So this seemed to be one of the bigger comments of the weekend. I was tagged here by mech.txt, Michael Micasso. I would be curious to hear what you think about this. I suppose it would be a very nice topic for the next space. Well, maybe a week from Wednesday we could do something. And it was based on this post here by JPEG Gallery. Again, Cosmo de Medici commented on it. It got a lot of press, one could say, on Twitter, or a lot of attention. And it was this post here, The Importance of Art Consistency. So we've talked about this a lot, or a significant amount. The idea that, should artists have to stay in their style, in this whole debate. So I read this, and I don't know, it might be a little long for us to read here, but I can read the first paragraph, and I want to just look at the structure here. Art consistency is an essential aspect of artistic expression. Whether you're a painter, illustrator, or digital artist, maintaining consistency in your work can greatly enhance its impact and help you build a recognizable style. So actually, I almost paused right there when I went and looked at this after being tagged, and I was like, you know what this sounds like to me? I don't know about you, but it sounds like ChatGPT to me. Here are some more reasons why art consistency matters and how it can benefit artists. I mean, the style, ChatGPT has a voice, and there is a style to it. You might say the default style of ChatGPT, and I have to say this really sounds like it. And then, so here are I'll just highlight even the structure of the post: building recognition. And then, consistency in your artwork, establishing a visual language, strength. So I think this is a lot of stuff that we basically already know. Sabato commented on this as well: professionalism and cohesion, strengthening artistic voice, growth and improvement. And even the genericness of the content here kind of feels like ChatGPT. We're not hearing the subtleties of artists like Gerhard Richter or Richard Prince and how they follow different themes and different even styles. I mean, Richard Prince even does photography, but also brilliantly does these beautiful, some of my favorite works of some of the great artists are actually their later work. Like Warhol's late work is, for me, the most exciting, as great as the earlier work is. And that's true for so many artists, interestingly. But we'll continue on here. Developing artistic discipline, differentiating yourself in terms of having a recognizable style. And again, this feels very ChatGPT-esque. Remember, art consistency doesn't mean you can't experiment or try new things. It's about finding a balance between staying true to your style and allowing room for growth. Embrace the journey of honing your craft while maintaining a consistent thread that ties. It's too well written, is actually the problem with this. So I saw there was a ton of debate on it. I mean, for me, again, I just think we've already discussed this. And I mean, it is ironic. Someone pointed this out, that Picasso was used here. Because, of course, this doesn't look anything like the Blue period. This doesn't look anything like, the Rose period. I mean, it looks completely different. I mean, if I had to guess, this is probably from like 1942 or 43. This is kind of like, again, it went from Blue period to Rose period to maybe analytic cubism to synthetic cubism to surrealism. And then you ended up somewhere over here. Again, I'd guess like 42. And then you have the last 20 or 30 years of Picasso's work, which was very controversial and kind of dismissed until very recently. It was kind of seen as kind of not that great, but now in the context of contemporary art and where contemporary art has gone, it's seen as totally modern and very relevant. So it's interesting how time has that effect too, but the moral of the story is, as Richard Prince says, the art world wants to put you in a box. And even just from a marketing, commercial perspective, we've discussed this just recently. People want to be able to say, that's the artist who does, screenshots, for example. I am for a certain amount of consistency, because if you do every piece a different style and you never really return, then it does feel like you're kind of floundering and you're not really, going somewhere. You're not really conducting what you might be tempted to call a serious investigation. You're just kind of trying stuff out. But on the other hand, though, experimentation is the food, like, for new art. Like, if you're not experimenting, then first of all, it gets kind of stale if people get the sense that that it's too predictable. So you have to be constantly experimenting and trying to push things forward. And frankly, when a series is done, sometimes you've said everything you need to say on a certain series, and then it's time to move on, and that's okay too. So I think it's, and then there's, as Sabato pointed out in one of the comments, it's important to have maybe it's more important to have a conceptual consistency. And Sabato is another artist that, say, probably has 5 or 6 at least different kinds of series. You see his AI series, you see his Corel Draw series. Should he have never started the drawing exercises because that would be deviating too far from his style? But when you look at it, you go, actually, it's pretty consistent from a conceptual point of view. As I said in a recent Spaces, it's almost like we're all conceptual artists, or when you engage in different, again, what I call process machines, it's sort of like you're kind of like a conceptual artist to a certain degree, and that's okay, and that's cool and fun, if that's the stance you're taking. And there's nothing wrong with staying with this particular style either. But final point on this, there are a lot of people, contemporary artists, who they fight their whole life to finally get a gallery, and then but then they feel trapped in that style because that gallery brings them on in order to sell that work, and they don't want the artist to deviate because that's all of a sudden a financial risk for them. It's a terrible business, generally speaking, running a physical gallery. They want to make sales. So if all of a sudden you're off experimenting with new things, that kind of, there's a pressure there. So I think we have a bit more flexibility, I would argue, in the blockchain world, because we don't have that gallery pressure to, make the sale for all these because all these employees are working and there's all this overhead that has to be covered. There's a lot less risk you can take. And another thing with the digital world, for whatever reason, memories are short. And this is something we've been commenting on from the very beginning of this show, is that memories are short, and that if you put out a bad work, or like works that aren't doing very well, let's put it that way, and then by the 4th one you put out something really nice, it's sort of like all that other stuff gets forgotten really quickly. And I think the important thing is to, in my opinion, and there's no rules here, but in my opinion, it's to follow the thread and to explore and to see what's going on here. I mean, it's kind of, people make art for different reasons, but part of it for me, it's kind of investigation of a certain process, and we learn about just art making and everything, and art itself as that process gets, about the aesthetic, what makes that beautiful, what works, what doesn't, different tensions, different variations, and everything. So that is the long and the short of my thoughts here. And actually, I even brought up, I did, ChatGPT here. Let me just make it big. Explain why it's important to have a consistent style, identity, and recognition. And then we go back, building recognition, right? So professionalism and establishing a visual language, professionalism and cohesion, right? So again, that's kind of, I wouldn't get too it's hard to get too wrapped up in an argument that seems to be based on a ChatGPT prompt, even though it brings up, important questions. But, I think we've been discussing that. And I think it shows the limits, I would argue, if I'm right, and I could be completely wrong about this AI thing, but I suspect I'm right on it. And I think it shows the limits of, frankly, of AI, because this is fairly general advice. As Sabato was pointing out, this is what you might tell anyone who's starting out. But it misses the subtleties of, and I would go one step further just on this whole conversation, which is make sure your scope is larger than Twitter and the crypto world. And I love crypto, but make sure as an artist, I would look to other artists for your cues, as far as if you have questions on, if you're a young artist and you're wondering, should I change my style? I'm being told here, maybe I shouldn't. Look to other artists you admire and look at what they do. And, that's, ultimately art history. The argument has been made, and I'm pretty sympathetic to it. Art history is often determined by other artists, almost how they reference each other. That is almost what kind of, how the canon is kind of built. It's really the influence of artists on other artists. So I would stick with that in terms of make sure take your cues from other artists is my advice or my thoughts on this whole situation. So interesting though, and it's an interesting topic. KF, just one more here. KF's actually been putting out some very interesting, just like stuff they're collecting and everything. The other day, Pocobelli was talking about the influence of video game aesthetics on the culture. And I agree with what he was saying, though I would extend his line of thinking to include the aesthetics derived from retro consoles, displays, user interfaces, and so on. And yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting... it's kind of back to the whole retro thing. So I think I agree with that. I'd say let's just leave that one there. There's a ton of art to go through, but I think just an interesting, maybe KF is right, maybe user interfaces. I'm pretty sympathetic to this. Displays, again, it's kind of back to these retro tools sort of idea. And continuing on, Charles AI. Keep these numbers in mind when you feel your art is going unnoticed. It's buried among 250,000 other pieces, half of which are in this episode. The odds of someone just randomly stumbling upon it are low, so the only real effective way to get it noticed is to spend time on Twitter, share your work, make connections, write about your thoughts, process, etc. It's a tough grind, but so worth it once you've nailed down the process. So I would echo that, and I wish I did that more with my work. So it's actually, I think that's great advice. Here's X-Mortal, I think. Yeah, X-Mortal's studio. I had to show this. GM. I mean, just amazing here. Look at these synths and everything. I just thought that was really cool. And look at, I think it's Semha. Look at how great, we always are a huge fan of how work is displayed. You see I'm a big fan of the floor-to-ceiling projection. And look, I mean, it's almost like you're inside of this artwork here. So just, I think, really cool, and it's probably even more astonishing when you walk through it. So just a cool display here from Semha. And finally here, I just, we talk blockchains occasionally here, and again, I just wanted to point this out because this is something I saw in a speech by, I think it's Gavin York or whatever, like the founder of Polkadot, like one of the founders, a couple of years ago, and this person here was just talking about Polkadot, there's not too many other ecosystems that can offer Web 2 end users zero user-facing Web 3 transaction fees. This is what makes DOT so powerful, and I'm just glad to see it out here because I saw it once mentioned, and I just thought that's interesting, and since we are in the blockchain world, this is worth noting. Continuing on, so I found out who this was. It is Kaido, and look at the price, 10.3 ETH. I mean, it's an awesome work. And you should see the previous sales, which we'll look at in a second. So we saw this on Instagram the other day. It's part of this new show, and on Super Rare, this curated show, just really cool, using the CAPTCHA here. So $20,000 is the price. But if you look at previous work, and this is a new discovery for me, Kaido, this sold for 12 ETH. So that other one I think was 10.3. So yeah, all to say, and this looks like a screenshot of the Super Rare homepage with some painterliness. It's a little blurry. I think that's my monitor, not the work, clearly. And so just kind of interesting use of screenshots and painterliness from Kaido, who I'd never heard of before. Here's another one, Solver. Again, more screenshots, Wikipedia, and the paint coming out. So nicely done here. Sold for $23,000, 14 ETH. So interesting discovery. And this is only in February. So another example, actually, of how, despite the bear market, I mean, there are massive sales that are going on. I have another one here, Matt Cain, who is a well-known figure in the space. Crown of Flowers after Bouguereau. Excuse me. And here is the work by Bouguereau, William Adolphe Bouguereau, 1884. And here is the work by Matt Cain. And this sold for 37.7 ETH, $72,000. So again, it's kind of back to this idea of what bear market. Pretty impressive sale and kind of an interesting treatment here. Like it seems like it's almost like each kind of area has been turned, kind of almost like processed in a sense, in the sense of like human kernel, where if you do a portrait, then the face is done with a certain patterning. And this could be much more complex than that. A weed was added to it, the work. So you see there's no weed in the original, or maybe it's really light, so it was highlighted. Interesting. So there's not too much on the process here. Excuse me. Allergies here in Berlin. It's very hot out and everything's in the air. There's not too much on the process that I could see here. It's mostly about the content. But all to say, 37.7 ETH. I mean, that is a big art sale in contemporary art world or anywhere. That is super impressive and a cool work. And speaking of which, Kareem Safa, the screen. So we've been seeing a preview of this, and this is a pretty cool work. It looks like a landscape here, kind of pixelated out a little bit with these beautiful waves. And of course, my favorite part here is this almost what looks like a tree that is changing its form here. And you have this different kind of dithering flashing underneath. A beautiful, beautiful work. And this looks like a river. So again, pixelated nature at work. These seem like trees, but everything is basically alive with this mysterious, I guess it's called the screen. Maybe it is a screen of a tree as if it's kind of in there with these other trees, but this one is dithered and kind of moving in this just kind of cool kind of crossword puzzle sort of way. Let me just very quickly here take a look at the description. A digital animation that explores the paradox of authenticity with our digital age. Set in a manually crafted pixelated landscape, a vertical screen emerges among a group of trees, displaying an abstract interpretation of a tree composed of continually shifting squares resembling pieces of a puzzle. So that is basically it. I'll let you read the rest, but drawing inspiration from Jean Baudrillard, Umberto Eco, and Gilles Deleuze, the screen delves into the captivating allure of digital simulations, revealing the transformative power embedded within symbols and exploring the profound consequences of our digitally rewired minds. Well, it's a beautiful piece, sold for an ETH. I think this was shown at NFT Europe, and I love that tree in the middle, and really kind of ambitious work. Speaking of which, guess who's back? Atmonez, who I want to call Atmos. Atmonez, who had these incredible cyberpunk works. And let's just... There's a new one. So, just very cool. Let's see if it's sold. Listed for 1 ETH only, Atmonez in Cyberpunk Volume 5, and that is Super Chief Gallery, so we'll have to look at that gallery on a day when there's less art in the ether here. Continuing on, Uxine, Do Not Cross. So this was released, I believe, on Friday, and playing with the Police Do Not Cross tape wrapped around the figure. I feel like we've seen kind of this figure as a GIF maybe earlier on. Look at how beautiful this is. This kind of painterly, just kind of leaving it, it's almost like Picasso, just leaving it a little unfinished here. Beautiful. It's really beautiful. And look at the texture and the digital brushes. And then playing with this, skeleton and a little kind of moving frame here with a skeleton in it and what looks like almost like a wire for a spinal cord. And look at this little angle here. So lots going on here from Uxine. Pretty cool. Only 55 Tezos on secondary. I guess 33 editions. So that will lower the price a little bit. So beautiful work here from Uxine as usual. And the Myth, now calling himself the Myth, Mora y Catriel. And this is part of an open edition, and there are tons of open editions now on Object, and kind of a serene, super original work here. Kind of a moving work here, a personal work feeling. This couple on a bed, and and then this strange banana figure on a cross. So It's kind of an interesting black background too, where the woman's hair seems to just bleed into the background there. Illustration made in 2020 in collaboration with the artist, director, and filmmaker Orco Videos for his movie Me Quedo Contigo. So 25 minted, 8 Tezos, and we'll see a few. I think this is also, no, this is not an open edition. A new failed artist by Wasteman Goldmanovich, and it looks like the failed artist has fallen into a sewer with a cast on his leg and a half-eating hot dog and a cigarette that it was probably eating and 1 Tezos in the pocket. And there is the sewer cover. So nice, simple. I quite like this composition, I have to say. And only 3 Tezos, 30 cents. And there are 8 left. So nobody is buying, but I think quite a nice piece. And continuing on, rustic digital art with a kind of another interesting moving work. Kind of looks like a hospital bed, doesn't it? And then we're back to this question mark, the Mario question mark. And just here it's an exclamation mark. The cloud turns into a happy face. And then this person seems to be a little bit about mortality, or at least visiting the hospital, health, and everything. So maybe a personal work here from Rustic Digital Art, I believe out of Argentina. Nice piece. This one was burned, interestingly. Maybe there's a new one. It was listed for 60 and then burned later. I'm not sure if it came back up. Dan Control with another, what I'd be tempted to call witty work, structured, perfectly balanced between reality and non-fragility. So taking the chairs and just making them work together as a kind of visual narrative here, and then using these sticks, these poles to support them. So just an interesting, kind of cool work. And there's another one by Dan Control that I absolutely loved. This one here, just combining everything. I find these ones really powerful. One of my favorites was the one that was done with, I think it's Fake Whale, where I think Mickey and Astro Boy were overlapped, overtopped. It looked like a beautiful abstract painting. This one looks like kind of a beautiful abstract painting. And again, reusing previous elements from previous paintings. All of these have been used in their own works. So this is on foundation. And continuing on, Tornado, Sunday Vibes, and just a cool, I love the smoke of the little bud here smoking. I love how the smoke kind of envelops the composition here, and actually really nice here with the bricks and the tiled floor and the plant and everything, the window. A really nice piece here from Tornado. And Boo Boy with a new work, kind of a different feeling work. It almost looks like a collaboration, but I don't think it is. And just an interesting kind of, I don't want to call it a shift, but just an interesting change in subject matter somewhat. And almost here, you almost see like the underdrawing of sorts. So anyways, interesting to watch. Boo Boy, oh, it is a collaboration. Boo Boy times Colahan. And so this is listed for 1.2 ETH. Well, there you go. It is a collaboration. And here we have Uyo66, and this was minted, I think, last week, about 10 days ago. And so this is one we missed, and this is just a cool drawing here. What I noticed here, we're going to look at another one by Uyo66, is the center composition. And it's not often, actually. There's one artist who loved the center composition, and that's William Blake. If you go to William Blake's work, that's what this reminds me of, weirdly. Is that when I see a center composition like this, because there's another one. This one's called 7DS. If you go to a William Blake show, this also has a center composition. This is a collaboration, though, with, I think Doodle Attack is the name of the artist. So they really harmonize well. You can almost not tell it's a collaboration, but you do see it in the bottom figures here. But if you ever go to a William Blake show, you'll see the center composition is used over and over and over again, which is quite interesting. Probably has a lot to do with the spiritual aspects. Here in Uyo, it's probably different reasons. Turkarak with a really interesting work here. Anxiety of guests sitting in slippers under white light. So again, I'm tempted to put this under the category of contemporary illustration. And, you see this often actually in Germany where everybody, you don't wear shoes in the house and everybody is given slippers, Hausschuh, they call them. And so just people at a party, this ambiguous hand, but it seems to be this person's own hand. And so just an interesting work here, and the shifting, the anxiety being displayed in the GIF by Turkarak. Cool work, 4 Tezos, and there are 9 left. Louis Osborne, with an addition of 100, this is 10 Tezos, Flourishing. So a simple kind of a summer work here with flowers that are quite happy, so a fun work here. And there are 91 left, and this was just minted this morning. And a cool work also by Smonter. This is the artist at work. So kind of the artist is plugging themselves in with this wire, one would think, and then that lights up the light bulb that replaces the head here. So just kind of a fun work. And again, I love the looseness. You see the floor isn't done with super straight lines, and always with Smonter, and even like this side panel here, the perspective is always interesting with Smonter. Even this, display of this chair here, really, again, contemporary illustration. Is this sold out? I believe it is. I mean, Smonter sells for so little, 1 Tezos, that these sell out right away, which is pretty cool. It's a good strategy. I mean, if you sell it cheap, you will sell out, and that's an edition of 20. So that is cool. Goyong Arts with a work that I'd never seen before. And again, just beautiful illustration here of these horses. It does feel alive just by moving the tails here. And I think, and then you see the blinking eye here. And again, it's as if part of these have just been pixelated and just kind of classic Goyong. So just more beautiful work. Pamelo Cerrone with a very cool open edition GM Pam, specially edition for Open Tez event. And here it is. And I think it's super fun. As I drink a glass of water, I think for the first time on this entire show. I had to wait for 1,000 subscribers to drink the water. So I just love this work. It is a skateboarder and turns into a car or something, seemingly. Either way, this is seems to almost turn into a car briefly. Cool work here. Everybody loves the GM works here, as I do. 20 have sold so far. Most of these seem to be going for 3 Tezos. So this actually ended this open edition. This was an awesome work. I kind of wish I got this. The Human Side of Pee Cop by PP Universal, edition of 3, was taking offers. I should have jumped in. Eile got one. And I thought just another really nice work here. This time of what seems like RoboCop, with a pretty cool, again, this almost looks like the picture of a screen here in the background. Really interesting work here in these textures here. You see like the rings here. Again, looks like a picture of a screen taken with a phone or something. Continuing on, Mick Renders with we have some really nice glitch ROMs here today. Jeopardy anniversary edition, and I'll show you my favorite part, this part here, where you just get the big chunks. This is another beautiful work, and again, it looks like it's processed through analog video, I believe. So don't pull the cartridge number 3, only 188, pretty low edition there, and there are still 7 left, so you can still get that. Silva Santus with another head turner, Glitchfall number 2, and I thought this was quite brilliant, again, by Silva Santus. So there's a lot of creativity going on here in the glitch ROMs. Beautiful work, nice composition and everything, and a nice just subject matter and kind of a smart treatment of it. 5 Tezos, that must be on secondary, and sold out. Let's see how quick. Sold out at 2 Tezos each on primary within half an hour, I think. So, or maybe an hour or so, about an hour. So that's pretty good for 26 editions. So nice work there. Putting out a lot of work, very prolific. Haiti Rocket with a gorgeous glitch. This is my favorite area with those massive pixels. So what looks like maybe a Japanese soccer game or something, not sure. But really fun piece here. And you see a soccer game here with all sorts of beautiful glitching. I love this scene here. I love all of them, actually. Only $15.50 for this edition of 17. That is cheap for Haiti Rocket, and there are a couple available at that price. And then Sabato This is an open edition, 34 minted already. That's pretty impressive. With doing a Barbie work. So this is, I believe he said, from 2017. We'll check in a second here. So an older glitch ROM work of the Barbie video game. I guess there's Barbie the movie. I saw a poster for that, so maybe that's why people are doing Barbie works. Let's just see. Yeah, made way back in 2016, 2017. So Sabato's been making glitch ROMs for, 7 or 8 years. At least. So pretty nice piece too. And the market likes it. And here's another piece. I hear there's some Barbie thing coming out, so here's some Barbie glitch art I made in 2015 or so. And pretty fun subject matter too. It's just loaded, isn't it? It's just a loaded subject, Barbie. So interesting topic. Francois Gamma, another ROM here. No ROM number 12. And again, just kind of minimal, very, arty work here in the best possible way. Just beautiful kind of cryptic writing here and everything. Just the diagonal line here. Just very nice. Just nice abstraction. Just interesting work. And only 3 Tezos, edition of 10. How many are left? 6. So there's still 6 left. And this was brilliant. This was landscape. This one sold out, unfortunately for me. This was 3 Tezos each. Look at all the John Cates, Haiti Roquette, Nicholas Dietrich. Nice crowd here. And that sold out. Took a couple of days. But this is a landscape. Just a nice kind of what looks like a glitch ROM landscape. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just pixel art. Really interesting, different, and innovative. So hopefully more of these come out. Landscape times 01, part of the no ROM. So it is a glitch ROM. Beautiful work. And here is Cap'n it is Figments, also known as Cap'n, with another beautiful work here. This probably sold out right away, and you gotta love all this stuff over here. Continuing with the RGB theme, the red, green, blue, screen colors, which is really interesting. Again, seems to be very much, if you had to, looking at all this work, seems to be somewhat, our relationship with technology seems to be one kind of way of thinking about this series. And again, kind of like retro arcade iconography or pixels, big chunky pixels. Gotta love this too here, this almost landscape with the moon and this big flashing square here. Really original stuff from Figments. 20 Tezos on secondary, only an edition of 12. Get it while you can. And this is hilarious, as usual. Beautiful color, I might add. Lorna Mills with what looks like Gumby. And Gumby is having a great time here. This seems to me like the spirit of Lorna Mills making her art. This is Lorna Mills in spirit. Nada Mas Nunca, open edition, for only 5 Tezos, 54 minted. So that's pretty impressive. From Lorna Mills. And a few works here by Ed Marola. Some really just kind of beautifully mysterious works. Seeker, let me just fix the screen here. Seeker, and this is an edition of 1 for 90 Tezos here. So I think Ed had a lot of works in reserve, so he's starting to put a lot out. This is beautifully kind of over-sharpened here, seemingly. And a huge amount of texture, telescope, and everything. Let me speed up the show a little bit here. And I thought we had more. I think we're going to have more by Ed here in a second. So continuing on, Santiago with a couple of huge abstracts here. Again, upscaled to 9,000 pixels. And so just continuing with this super interesting series here. And kind of these dithered abstracts. Just beautifully done here. And continuing on, Yuri J. with a bunch of interesting abstracts. So look at the shape here, because I think I see a pattern here when I opened all these together. So this was an open edition, 17 were minted. I guess they're all going at 3 Tezos. And you see the similarity? So just taking a shape, an interesting shape, and then playing with it. So these are editions of 1, and this is what you can do in digital art, because you have different layers, and so they can be reused. And so this is super cool, in my opinion. And so this is an edition of 25 and just different treatments, and makes a beautiful series here. So Yuri J with some abstracts, Joy Kid with a new abstract, interesting, almost diagonal looking gradient cycling through here, which gives it almost makes you feel out of balance a little bit. Cool work, edition of 22, buy on secondary for $12.90. Let's just see on primary. Sold out at 5 and sold out really quick within an hour. So abstract pixel art. And here's some more Ed Marola. So Spellcaster, this one was beautiful. Love the border here, with all these cryptic sort of images and what looks like kind of a, medieval figure here, maybe a wizard, maybe a knight, and just almost up in the clouds here. Look at the texture, this beautifully pixelated texture here. And it just continues to be treated differently throughout the work, the blurring, and Ed is continuing his TV show. I'm happy to hear. Ed Marola, Aurea Mediocrita, Procreate an A-sprite traced over an AI output. So we're back to the AI source. And again, Procreate put into A-sprite. Super cool. And love the texture in here on the sun. This brushwork texture. And then classic kind of moving around a bit. And here are the two figures here. Again, this kind of ancient classical setting. And one more really interesting piece by Ed Marola, Studying Demon. This is in a collection called Pixel Dreams, sold for 0.1. Nice work. So this sold really quickly. And just a really cool pixel artwork. Nice and simple, interesting experimentation, and just going from the book to the computer to the book. Just super interesting. Studying. Tom Bombadil with, I believe, a new series here called Secret Lair. So I think maybe this series won't have what I call the Sandman figure or the gas mask figure or the skull figure, but I'm not sure. So here is just the first teaser. And you know what else it looks like? Maybe different kind of dithering is being used in this series because we see it in the sky here. There's not the classic what I call four on the floor dithering that you see down here, just the checkerboard dithering. Here you start to see different kinds of dithering, so maybe that's also why he started a new series here. This is taking offers. So offers are coming in. Notorious Man XTZ, Star Chaser with a really nice piece here. Buy for 150 on secondary. Let's just see what happened. 3 Tezos on primary, and that sold out pretty quickly. Of course, space and pixel art. It looks great and really cool. Who doesn't want that? This cool little machine guy here, an astronaut looking off into the distance. A poetic work. And Mick Renders with an interesting pixel art work here too. Caustic comparison. And it seems to me that this is a comparison between nature on top, juxtaposed with the city underneath, with a little bit of kind of wavy experimentation here at the bottom. I guess that's for the water, the reflection of the city here in the water. So pretty interesting work, really interesting colors. Kind of a minimal palette here, color palette. Edition of 5, low edition, and they're $8.88 on primary. And continuing on, Emmy Pixel, edition of 1, 37 Tezos, so that's cool. A very low edition here, and just interesting works. There's a whole series that was put out. I just took a couple of highlights here. But I thought these were beautiful. Japanese Daydreams, DS4. And a little landscape here, a mirror, kind of, again, this looks like a Japanese gate of some kind, night scene, and again, has a real Japanese feeling to it, doesn't it? And Japanese print almost, and here's some mountains with a beautiful kind of sunset and a beautiful border. This one did sell, and that sold for $6.50. Is that a one of one? Wow. So someone got a great deal there. Element Lee with a few works. So again, this experimental pixel art. Look at how great the sky is here, if that's a sky or whatever this gray area is here. Just so roughly done. And even the car itself, it becomes like an aesthetic in itself, kind of how roughly done it is. It's quite beautiful to see. I think the contrast is between the geometric, mathematically precise square pixels contrasting with these kind of very, I don't want to call them loose drawings, but maybe slightly distorted and kind of off. But it makes a beautiful effect. So this is 6 Tezos. I love the border here too. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So this is 6 Tezos, 15 are left, edition of 20. And there's a couple more here too, Shell Sync. So this is interesting, 2 colors, and it feels very manual, the pixels, the way that they're done here, and kind of a 1-bit pixel work, as it says here. And it almost has a Magritte-esque juxtaposition here of the sync tap being turned on into a shell. This is very Magritte-esque. And so interesting color choice too. Really nice color choice. And another interesting experiment, 95 by 95 pixels principle. And it seems as if it's got a bit of a weather feeling. I guess this is the night mode and day mode. But then here you seem to see what looks like maybe snow or rain but maybe not. And here a little bit of mountain, and that almost looks like a bug. Interesting border here. Just super interesting work from Element Lee, who I'm glad to see just so much work coming out. It's just super interesting. Byte by bit with a 1 of 1. This is using KidPix 1.0. So again, you see with byte by bit, different series, but always coming back to these series and exploring, continue to investigate, because artists get bored. Creative people get bored, so that's why it's nice to often have more than one kind of series, because if you always do the same thing, it can be, sometimes it's seen as a feature, but it can be a bug too. If your work becomes predictable, that's a problem, right? So you don't want to be too predictable. That's why it's great where Byte by Bit is making different series, to our earlier conversation we were having on consistency and style. Here's a beautiful work by Pinky Blue, who we haven't seen for a while, and I thought this was just a super stylish work of this woman, looks like on an old cell phone and everything, pink and blue. Trademark colors here, kind of like this almost light pink though, not a strong pink, and just beautifully done. Beautifully done. Again, you gotta love, especially all this kind of, what I'm tempted to call this noise, of this. So more just beautiful, what I'm tempted to call 1-bit pixel work. Continuing with the pixel art, Manidal. The 4 of Cups, so continuing the tarot, and I thought the color in here was gorgeous, among other things. I mean, this would make it's the shading in here. The light is beautiful. I mean, if you're in a video game and it's funny because you have this contrast of this very kind of simple pixel art, low resolution pixel art, but it's done with such detail. The light is treated so well. I mean, you see it over here, you see it in the columns, you see it especially back here in the bricks. And there's just such a sense of space. And again, this green is like the perfect color as well as the red. Just beautiful work. And then you see that little bird flying across. 4 of Cups, beautiful. Guadanarian is back with a beautiful animated abstract here, kind of pixel art animation. And this is open edition, 14 have been minted, 3 Tezos. 3 Tezos seems to be the price that people are pricing all the open editions at. So very cool here, just a nice simple work, 14 minted. It's great to see all of them selling too. I mean, nice sales here overall. Mika Oladev. So this isn't a Mika Oladev work. Paid 130 Tezos for this work by Lovid. So I'm not sure. Art Blocks Curated. Lovid seems to be a prominent artist of some kind. This collection is something you do not want to miss. And finding out the images were made at the Institute of Electronic Arts at Alfred University, where I currently go to school and work with the IEA, feels super special. Happy Friday. So picked up this beautiful work here. And I think I brought it up on Object. Just a really nice, I'm not sure if it's a glitch work or what it is, but it's beautiful. Got a really nice one there. Mika got a really nice one. So just beautiful color and beautiful work. Here's another one from the series. It's glitch art, as it says in the tag there. 130 Tezos, edition of 6, so it's not cheap. But it's interesting to look up close, right? Because you see celebrating, I guess what you'd call JPEG artifacts, it seems to me. You see a lot of JPEG artifacts here, and then you see a little bit of pixel, 4 on the floor pixels, and then you see kind of out of focus, a little bit of pink in here. You almost wonder if there's video, who knows, analog video, not sure, but it's quite rich. Souvenirs, nice title. Not a Number, with another gradient work here, and it's getting more and more complex, which is fascinating to watch here. And I love the bottom part here too. And again, I think this is all made with code. So super interesting here. Very interesting work. And I love the top here too. These colors, the light yellow almost on the orange or the green. Just very nice. One of one, probably 5 Tezos and 7 Tezos. The price is going up, went to glow. Let's see how long it took. It looks like it was almost instant there. Continuing on, people of Tezos, your late night program is interrupted. A mysterious message appears. So a cryptic work here, and I have to speed up, by people of Tezos. Just a cool kind of glitchy work from them. And this is open edition, I think. Open Tez. Maybe it was burnt. Maybe they put out a new version. Yes. And continuing on, Renki, with a cool animated abstract with some pixels in it. Tokuyama. And these are, as usual, 10 Tezos each and probably an edition of 10. And there is usually one available. So cool work. Another cool work here. Nishi Oida by Renki, edition of 10. Did this sell out? Let's just see here. Renki sells almost one at a time, it seems. So here you see interesting technique and beautiful work here. So kind of a walking person. And this was super interesting. Renato Marini, 15 Tezos on, I assume on secondary here. Really interesting piece here, kind of a fun piece I saw on Twitter, kind of mixing video and video effects and everything of a hand. And just kind of a fun, interesting work. Let's just see what happened on primary here. Only 99 cents and sold out probably. Still took a while, for the market to find this work. But it did sell out, and now offers are being accepted for 5 Tezos. So people are making money here. Xerox with the work, and I haven't seen too many. I mean, this reminds me of Spangel. If you know Spangel, Divine Moments of Truth. But who knows where the title came from. So interesting work here from Xerox, who I don't know too much about. I saw the collaboration with Die with the Most Likes. Seems to... Yeah, and then we looked at some of the work on OpenSea, I guess a few months ago. Just an interesting artist. Let's see if interesting overlay here of these lines. And a poem here, Xerox 2023, 50 frames, 64 colors. And this was burnt, so maybe there's a new version of this. I would reload and check, but my browser, we are full here. And continuing on, a native ed, open edition of 15 works for 3 Tezos. Interesting combination of what looks like almost like a classical, half classical, almost Auguste Rodin type sculptural figure with, almost like what I'd be tempted to call like high technology, embracing this window here with 3 X's almost. Yeah, so just interesting. And then just this interesting frame here, a bit of noise on the right. Interesting piece, open edition, 3 Tezos, 15 minted. Into AI, Shilly Preston with an open edition. I thought this was great. Suffering Through the Static 2, Midjourney and Photoshop. You Can't Breathe Money by Xcopy. So maybe this is using an Xcopy work. Perhaps. I'm not sure. I don't recognize it, but it's cool. If there is appropriation, and if there's not appropriation, it's still cool. It makes a really nice contrast, this kind of rough, GIF with this kind of AI backdrop. Cool combination. Just very cool juxtaposition and combination. 31 minted, that's pretty good for 3 Tezos. So a lot of these open editions selling. Graphica.png put out this super interesting series here. And so just trademark. And I think it's, See Users Admin Pictures by Graphica, Post Photographic Perspectives, Acceptable Realities is Fellowship's second group show. So Fellowship is the people who put it on. Second group show celebrating a new wave of innovation in AI, video, and photography. So floor price of 0.25 ETH. That's pretty nice. And there are 58. How many pieces are there? It doesn't say. Maybe 100 results. So pretty cool. Pretty interesting. And yeah, so just a really nice series. So we can't go through them all here, but here's just a taste of this super interesting series here. So lots happening here. I mean, again, this is since Friday. Basically everything I've seen here, I mean, maybe that came out last Thursday, I'm not sure, but basically everything is very new here. July 15th, so a couple of days ago, Ilya Bliznet's Difficult Recovery, AI and Digital Painting. Let's see if we can speed through the rest of this show here. So nice, you gotta love the brushwork here on top of what, then there's digital. Then again, these just kind of reminiscence of photographs of screens, but maybe it's just a multiply layer of some kind. So just interesting work here by Ilya Bliznet. Difficult Recovery, interesting title. This is really cool. This is by Dancevitar. And this was Broken Interiors is the series. So just cool AI artwork here. As you can see, you have to kind of look twice. When you look closer, you see that the arms are, it's AI arms that don't make sense. But when you look just kind of quickly, you don't notice it right away. So kind of funny having this serene person, lying or, resting their head on this fake arm and leg here. And all the distortions in here. So pretty amazing. Kind of sets you off balance a little bit there too. And here is the rest of the series. So just a little taster here. And this one sold for 0.1 ETH. And so floor price 0.07. So just cool from Dancevitar. Mikey Wilson broke down Palace Blues. And this is Bob Dylan seemingly again. And that looks like the Grateful Dead. The writers, Jerry Garcia and I think it's Robert Hunter, and probably a quote from the Grateful Dead, who are a great band. Mikey Wilson, 41 minted, 3 Tezos. So Mikey Wilson doing great work here as usual. And just a really nice painterly work. And that beautiful guitar is always kind of brightly colored in there, along this kind of muted colored background here. Zoom with another of, kind of like continuing to play with what seems to be these pale figures here and some flowers and water here. Fulva Disorder. So interesting piece here. AI artwork. Again, kind of nice and painterly. And continuing, is this Dancevitar? No, this is Demon AI. So Demon AI with some couple of just sort of like AI or almost like sci-fi works here. So interesting piece here. And Form 821, and I believe this is part of a group, AIAF, so Demon New York City. I think who watches this show, so shout out to Demon AI. Cool work. And Area, this is by MCHX, as you probably could recognize. Cool kind of variation on these color fields. So interesting piece here. A minimal stripe in the middle here. And I think quite a few of these came out, and so that is MCHX, and that is an edition of 1, and it hasn't been listed yet. This was also super interesting, could hang really well by Diane Drube, which could also hang well with MCHX. Stare at cloud for 20 seconds. So I don't know if we'll take 20 seconds here, but I have to say I love the colors in this series. It's just really cool. Beautiful color. So who knows what that does to you? By staring at, I think we were close to staring at this for 20 seconds. So kind of surreal over here. And look at that. Wow. Okay. One Cloud Observation 3. This is an open edition. 5 Tezos, 17 minted. Very cool. And Martin Joe, shadow ban. So maybe the Kinky Bears. So you like engagement. Maybe the Kinky Bears have been shadow banned. That is not impossible. By Twitter, perhaps. So cool kind of GLB from Martin Joe. 1 has been minted. That could, so it could be a very low edition. 3 Tezos. And we missed this. This is Lee Ellis. And I believe Wrestling with Nostalgia. Now this isn't Now I don't think this is Threesomes. This is another artist who paints on trading cards. I thought this was Threesomes actually. So this came out maybe a week ago. Only a Tezos, edition of 36. So yeah, this is a different artist for sure. So interesting piece here. Wrestling with Nostalgia, number 69. Here's number 92. Looks like wrestling trading cards. Maybe that's Randy Savage or something. And another one here. Again, looks like wrestling trading cards. Buy now for 20, edition of 3. And let's just see. And the other 2 sold for 1. A few have been burnt. So interesting work there. And some physical by Joao Salazar. Just a more work in progress. And what I love about Joao, so here doing a, what maybe it's an oil or it's actually acrylic. This is acrylic paint here, probably with some medium, not sure. Again, not sticking to just the plasticine, also making paintings, and that's cool. That shows range, right? So this is the other side of always doing the same thing. It shows range, and then if all of a sudden Joao makes a big sculpture, then it shows range. So there are benefits to doing different things. as well as, if you go too far, then it's too much. But there's a balance, I guess, is the point. This is a really interesting artist, Alicia Biala, Oil on Linen. And what gallery is this with? I thought it was a really nice piece here, as you can see. Beautiful oil painting. Nice show. And you see here, kind of a fun work. I mean, it seems very symbolic and that there's a lot going on. The red tablecloth, beautifully painted. And the hands and everything. So just an interesting work there. Give that a like. And that, my friends, is your show. What an epic show. Thank you, everybody, for everything. And Unknown Collector on Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Till next time, take care.